Hey, Heidi's here. That's cool. Hey,
Hello.
Hoka. Heidi's a luminary here in our community.
Huh?
What do you need from me?
Can you do the presentation instead of me?
No, I can't. I'm in another one at the same time. So that's just too much even for me. But I can
Okay.
help do the chat and any other thing that you need for me to do.
Yeah, I think chat, checking if people have questions or
Mhm.
I don't know. Let me see if I have. I can. Yeah, I can.
Well, one thing I noticed from our last presentation, I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way, but you have a tendency to want to answer the questions in the chat right away, and that's fine. If you want to do that, then I'll leave it alone. But if you want, you could just ignore the chat and I'll take care of it, and then we could hit the questions later. If it's a small group, maybe it's fine to just have everyone with their mics on.
I think it's going to be a small group. So it's probably if they are shy and they don't want to actually ask the questions with microphone and video, then I will ask them on the chat, but it's going to be a lot of interaction because it's I need to know a lot about them.
Yeah.
Because in general program Gameful in different programs, and I want to see how specific I get into some things or if it is something more general.
That's great. Well, then I'll just follow your lead because I only about maybe 15 people registered when I looked this morning. So I think you'll be able to interact with everybody and just tell me what you want me to do. And you can talk, I can participate too.
Okay, there you go. I'm going to ask all the questions to you.
Okay.
Okay, let me see. Let's wait a couple of minutes.
I mean, I would suggest starting just to, even if it's just warming up a little bit, just so our folks who are here can stay engaged.
No. Yeah. Okay. So we have Patrick and Heidi and Kristen. So I like small groups because there is more discussion and there are more things to do and more questions and details, and we can go into solving a lot of the questions and doubts. So thank you for coming. And let's see. So the first thing that I want to know is like what do you do? Like what kind of program? Why is this gameful learning or gameful design interesting to you?
Who do you want to go first?
Should I call on people like a teacher or
Oh,
should I
yeah,
just wait?
because otherwise no one wants to be the first one to talk. So it's
Oh,
okay.
come on.
We have a
Okay,
very small group.
Katie, can you tell me why are you interested in gameful learning design?
I am interested, so I do community ESL work, lots of parents at the schools, and it's all very flexible. And so I would like to do a lot of community stuff, so I just thought I'd like to learn, and yeah.
So is English as a second language, right?
Yes.
Nice. And Christine, what about you?
Yeah, so I am the department chair of the TESOL program at Multnomah University, and I have 9 TESOL programs I oversee. So that's 2 certificate programs, a minor, a major, a master's for people with a BA in TESOL, a master's for people without, and then an online master's, a dual degree with MAGDJ, that's a Master's of Arts in Global Development and Justice. And then I have community ESOL as well, which is free classes for the community. And so one of the ways I'm brainstorming about bringing all those programs together in a more collaborative space is through gamified learning. And I was actually at your last, I don't know if it was your last one, you've probably done more between now and then, but the last one that Patrick hosted with people, places, and things, and really appreciated your design. And I'm thinking through how we can have sort of a parallel program to our grading system that encourages students to go a little further with their work and address some of the issues we have in these programs.
Okay, now I'm nervous.
No, don't be.
I'm nervous. So now, okay. So Patrick, I think, okay, let's go for it. So nice. So the nice thing is that it's basically English, so I don't have to make it broad. I can make it super specific and show you examples and things like that. The difference between the things that I'm going to show you is that I try to focus a lot on different types of, most of the people think of gamifying things or gameful design, and they need to use a lot of technology, which is kind of true, not necessarily or completely true. And I live in Peru, so if I actually aim at having a high-tech class, it's going to cause problems because we don't have accessing technology or even internet is not that easy. So I always try to think of different realities. And there are people that have, every kid has a computer, a good internet connection. And then we have people that they only have a smartphone or even less than that. So so it's important that we think as gamifying things or gameful design is not entirely dependent of technology use. The one that has to use technology all the time is the teacher. Okay, so the teacher needs to be technology savvy or learn a few things about it, but you can actually gamify a class with the students not using that much of technology, but the teacher needs to control the data. Unless you are a genius and you have a super big brain and you can have all the information in your brain, do all the calculations and graphs, then you need a computer. So going into details now, because we don't have that much time, I'm going to just show a little bit of theory, and then we go into examples, and then you start asking your questions. So I'm just going to show this little thingy. Virtual classes. This is in English now because I do this in English and in Spanish. So gameful design, I prefer using the term gameful design instead of gamification, because gamification has been used longer but it has gone into a place where some people just confuse it too much. Okay, and people only think about points, leaderboards, and badges, and then you have this reaction of, okay, my students hate it, or I hate it because my students only start doing things because I give them points. If I don't give them points, they don't do anything. And if somebody's on the leaderboard, then the other student on the top of the leaderboard, then the other students lose motivation. And then that's why some people are reluctant to actually gamify something. So that's why I prefer to use gameful design. And gameful design or gameful learning is based on motivational theory. And that is, we have a lot, like, but this is kind of new, and is the self-determination theory, which basically says that in order to have this motivational learning environment, you need three key factors, and that is autonomy, challenge, and relation. So if you manage to do that, then you're going to have a very motivating learning environment. There are different ways of doing it. Gameful design is one of them, and that is the one that I picked because I love video games, and that is where it comes from. Gameful design is not playing games. Gameful design is, I should have asked that question. So I already mentioned one thing. What do you think is gamification or gameful design? You can put it in the chat or
That's a good.
speak.
Yeah, I was wondering, I wasn't sure exactly, but I do assume that there's video games or something, but I like that it's more broad than that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's not so much just using games in your techniques, but it's using the principles. I hate to use the word addictive, but the things that make it addictive, but in a positive, in the most positive sense of that, right? Of like what really compels somebody to participate and to do these kinds of things, and using that in your instruction.
Exactly. So it's like when we talk about games, not necessarily video games, but it could be board games. Um, you there are dynamics and mechanics. So you take the dynamics and mechanics of a game and put it in your class design. So more than the class itself, it's how you design it. So it's course design. So that's why it's a little bit more complicated and a little bit more, it demands more time at the beginning. So it's course design. Autonomy, I'm going to leave autonomy for the last because that is the most difficult one. Relation is because you have to promote people to be in a social environment. In online learning now, fully online learning, that what happened during the pandemic is that we have lost that. Like classes have gone into full online mode, but there is no that social component, or it's missing. And there is a lot of lecturing and there is participation, but that natural thing that happens before the class or before or after the class, that the students get together, they start talking about whatever, and then they are motivated. Okay, now it's time for the class, and then when there is a break, they start talking about their life or whatever. We are missing that point. Now, if you don't have that in a class, then your motivation is going to decrease. So even if it is something that as easy as discussion forums, giving them some time during the video call, having a special days where they actually discuss their personal lives with some control, or having a control chat with some rules and restrictions. And that is another thing about gameful design, restrictions. Then you will motivate people to study. And I remember that part from school. Whenever I was in school and we were switching teachers, those 15 minutes between the teacher coming and going were super fun. And that is why you could actually be 8 hours at a school because otherwise it would be just torture. And online, especially online classes have lost that. But in general, our classes need to include that component. And in language learning, it's super important. That it's good that you have grammar, vocabulary, expressions, listening, and all the skills, but they have to see the social component of it. Like a language is to communicate, get information, talk to people, interact. Okay. Now, the other one is challenge. And I love that picture of the skateboard. And again, because we are still during the pandemic, different countries have different realities. But one thing that I observe from teachers, okay, let's go on online mode. You lecture and then you go with worksheets. You lecture and then you go with worksheets, and then you lecture and you go with worksheets. And I have seen that also in in-person classes. But the thing that happens there is it becomes monotonous. And for some students, it becomes too easy. And when something is too easy, you just get bored with it and then you just don't study. And then we have the opposite. Even with the same thing of worksheets and worksheets and worksheets, if they don't actually understand, it gets too difficult. And then the students get frustrated and they lose motivation. They don't want to study. And then they flunk or they just drop out. And then you have to have a balance. And I have a simple rule. If it's an activity or a task that they can complete without your help, and it's easy for them and they do it super fast, it's too easy for them. Simple as that. And if with your help, all the time that you can give them, they cannot complete the task, then that task needs to be to be broken down into pieces because it's too difficult for them and it's going to cause frustration. Now, this is connected with autonomy. Autonomy, and I love that part about online teaching, is that you can respect a student's pace, a student's way of learning, and a student's of how they try to actually pass a course. Okay, and that is the most important thing about gameful design: autonomy. If you land autonomy, even if you don't consider other aspects, then you're going to see magic in a program. Okay, so there are different ways to promote autonomy. I'm going to just give you an example because I'm going to talk in detail about autonomy in another workshop. Things like, for example, final project, and they can pick which is the final project. Obviously, not out of the blue. I always give this example. If I tell my little daughter, just go, we are going to a wedding, just go and pick whatever clothes you want, it's your decision, then she will go with me with the wedding and she will be dressed in her pajamas and a unicorn hat. Which I'm okay with, but probably is not those are not the right clothes. But if I actually give them choices, like you can wear this, and that, pick whatever you want, and then it's a little bit more control. But it's actually deciding. It's motivation. Like going to a restaurant. If you go to I invite you to a restaurant, and then I say, nice, you can eat only hamburgers, and you have a menu of 10 different dishes, or let's talk about Peruvian food, and then I only let you eat one dish, then you don't want to be invited by me again because I pick for you, and then you lose motivation. But if I actually let you choose, you have some control, and then you want to study. Well, in this case, eat food, but go out with me. But if it is studying, we tend to be to one path in the class. So you pass like this, and the teacher design is like you have to do this, and then you are successful. Okay, and now I don't know how much you know about video games and if you like video games, but pretty much everybody knows one video game and one board game that are very popular. Okay, video game Super Mario. I hope you know Super Mario. Yes, good. So if you think about Super Mario, and let's see about autonomy, you can finish the level with different ways. You can go up, you can go down. Maybe you die in the middle, but you don't start from the beginning. But at the end, you can actually be successful. Okay, so it depends on you. Now, what happens if you are a super good player and somehow you discover the secret passage and you jump from level 1 to level 4? Okay, that is also possible in a game. Can you do that in education? So what happens if a student is so good and gets to a course that actually he can skip some things and do more advanced things? Do you allow them to do that or not? So that is the problem. I heard a talk where they were saying that we tend to go for average. So if you tend to go for average, it's fair for the students that need to go up. So they get to the average and it's good. But what happened with the extraordinary student? The other student is up here and you are aiming at the average. and you're not giving this student the extra thing for him or her. So what's going on is that student is going to go down to average, and it's not fair. So what we want is that they can pick their paths, have options, increase difficulty, get more rewards, but they choose. They have to know their abilities. They can try. If they fail, they can come back and all that. Okay. So far, some questions. Do you have questions about it?
I'm wondering, Jota, if we will have a chance to also talk today, and it depends a little bit on what Kristen and Heidi are interested in, and how to gamify programs that are not virtual.
I'm just talking about general.
Yeah,
okay, so you
exactly.
just do this in general programs, but I'm just giving you the examples of the pandemic because it's just like the fresh thing. But I started this with a regular program, and then just putting it in a virtual mode was just putting it in virtual because the design is there. That's why it's super important. Now, the first thing that we do for this, I'm going to stop sharing this. And the first thing that we do is two things: objectives and deciding the type of players. Okay, and the first thing of objectives, normally we tend to focus only on knowledge objectives. I want you to think of three types of objectives. Those are knowledge, skills, and values. Okay, so if that is the first thing, if you pick the knowledge, skills, and values. Now, knowledge is easy when we teach English or anything. You just see like grammar, this want to know. You can divide it in units or in the semester, anything. Okay. Then we go into skills, and then when we think about English in skills, we normally we think about speaking, writing, and all that. But I want you to go beyond, okay, and think about the problems that you have. For example, in a class, when we have 40 students, even if it is in person or if it is virtual, you have 40 students. One of the issues that we have is participation. So they actually don't want to participate. So one of the skills that you want them to learn is to volunteer to participate. Okay, so you have to think of those little problems and think about as a skill and put it as an objective. Why? Because you have to, those are the ones that you want to gamify. And I'm going to give you a very simple example with something that is not connected with an English class. Do you know the game Monopoly? Okay. What is the objective of Monopoly?
To bankrupt everybody else.
Exactly. So that is the objective of Monopoly. Okay. So that is but originally, and this is a bad designed thing about Monopoly, not many people realize that the original objective of Monopoly was to show people it was bad to destroy and bankrupt the other people. That was the designer's objective. But since you win the game by actually bankrupting people, then the people learn that that's the thing that you should do. Okay, so be careful with your objectives, because if you want them to learn to participate, then you have to motivate them to participate in somehow. Now, if you check the game dynamics and mechanics, it's a game. You throw the dice and all that, and that is the game itself. But what you are teaching is something bigger. So think about that in English. You can be teaching grammar, communication, expressions, and all that, but have to learn something else. And then you can include values, what values you want to. And obviously that depends on your program, university, or whatever you want to teach them. And you include them that, but it has to be in a very practical kind of Jedi thing. Okay. I'm going to do a social experiment with you. No, not experiment. We are 4 only. But yeah, I think we can do that. So have you played with Quizlet? Yes? Okay, so probably this is going to be easy. But let's see something. We're going to play, and I'm going to give you 5 seconds. No, we're going to play for 1 minute. Okay, so I'm going to give you the link and the code, and we're going to try to play in teams. I'm going to be part of these two, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to give you an example of this value thing that you want. Okay, so Oh, that is the, okay. So that is the link in the chat. And this is the code. So I need you, Patrick. Everybody needs to be
Yeah,
there.
I'll go in.
Okay, so we're going to, because we need 4 people. Okay, we have Christine, Haiti. We're just missing Patrick. Okay, so let's create. Haiti is going to be my team. We are the giraffes, and Christine and Patrick are the ostriches. So let's see. Simple as that. Okay, it's Chinese numbers in Chinese. I hope you know. I'm making all the mistakes. This is, who knows Chinese?
I don't. I don't know what's happening. Things are going fast and I'm on 2 screens. I haven't played Quizlet that much. I've played it.
Just try to respond. I can pick another one, but just try to respond. And
okay. Yeah. So, okay. Am I trying to
progress?
Am I trying to go faster than Kristen, or is it just one member of our team needs to answer?
You are the first person that asked that question while we are playing. Okay, so you ruined my experiment. But anyway.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to stop there because Patrick actually discovered it.
Oh gosh.
Okay. No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm going to just close the game. I'm going to close the game, come back to the call. And I normally do this experiment, but normally I pick an easier topic, because when you play in teams in Quizlet and you see that those alternatives, in this case, we were 2 members, but only 1 member had the correct answer. Okay. So what happens with the students is that the first reaction is that they try to answer, even if they see, oh, I don't see the alternative. 1 must be correct, and they answer. So they start picking and doing it by luck. And then the team it loses points because they are, like, for example, in 7 and they go back to 0. So actually Quizlet is gamifying quiz, but is teaching collaboration. So it's a part of gamifying the quiz and making it a fun alternative. What they have to do actually is to trust their partners, or even if you have them in a separate video call, start talking, okay, what is the answer for this, and then they start helping each other in teams. So that is what you have to do on gamification or gameful design. Add those extra things. There is one thing that is going to be very clear and easy and very, you see, okay, it's gamifying a test. But you have to add something else, so you promote these values and skills that you want your students to learn. Okay, don't go on the obvious part of it. And so you have to add things like that. Encouraging students to participate is one thing. Encouraging the students to be autonomous is another thing. Encourage students to read. In our culture in Peru, that is very difficult. So if you gamify that part, then they are going to start reading and getting some benefits, not necessarily in points. Okay, so that's why think of skills, knowledge, and values. Okay, now that is step 1. Step 2, well, this is what I normally do. You can modify it. Step 2 is decided on players. Okay, I never talk about type of students or learning styles. That is a different thing. You can include that too. We know about that, but I want you to focus on players. There are many, many different ways of talking about players, and I'm going to show you one. This is from, yeah. So this is Dr. Richard R. A. Bartle. So he has what they call this. 4 players only. Okay, they are different authors, and they have even a model of 9 different players. Okay, that's my phone. and it's Mario. You can tell that I love games. So this is the way that he classifies players: killers, achievers, socializers, and explorers. Okay. Now, what it means is that when you design a course, you have to think of different characteristics. Okay. When you gamify a course, when you use gameful design. So you have socializers. Let's start with the ones that are easy. Socializers are people that need these kind of activities that involve in interacting with people. Okay. So they are going, even if it is a game, they need to have a game where they have to interact with people. If you think about online games, there is always that factor. It could be simple, as simple as a chat. It could be like even interacting with teams, with talking to them and coordinating attacks or things like that. If you talk about a class, you have to have missions in which you depend on a team. Okay, I'm going to give you an example in a minute on how we do that. Then you have explorers. Those are some other people call them the free spirits. So it's basically they like checking the course, finding mistakes, seeing. So they don't want to follow a specific path. They want to have this free choice of picking. Okay, I want to study this and all that. Obviously, in a limited. Okay, so you have to limit the paths that they want to take. Okay, then you have the achievers. What do you think are who do you think are the achievers? I'm getting tired. No? Okay, your achievers are your perfect. No, not the perfect. Like those. These are the. Sorry, I'm switching to Spanish. So these are the achievers, and the achievers are the ones that are actually looking for objectives. So if your course is to pass a test or learn about simple paths, they want to get to that. So those are the students that are going to study, get the role, and all that. And then we have the killers. It's not a negative thing. This is not a negative thing. What are the killers? The killers are the ones that like competition. Okay, those are the ones that like competition. Socializers are more on the side of collaboration. Killers are more on the side of competition. So they need this thing of, okay, getting more points here, doing this kind of activity and all that. So those are the types of players. Okay, now we have more. I can give you more, but it's going to become like uh, lots of theory. And I'm going to just write on the chat. Richard Allen Barrer is the one that goes for 4. It's a model of 4. Okay, and then he explains a lot of more details on what do they want like doing. Then we have, I don't know how to pronounce this name. Sorry, I'm terrible. So who knows? How can you pronounce that? Patrick, maybe you know.
Yeah, Andrei Machevsky.
Okay, nice. And then he has he has more. He has 5 types. So it's like an extended version. He has the player, the socializer, the free spirit, like the explorer. Then you have, and they include the revolutionary. Okay. So they want to master the game. And then you have the philanthropist, the one that if you include activities that have some meaning, deep meaning, apart from learning, that they are helping others, then they feel motivated by that. Okay, so those are like that. And then they play by different things. There are different things that motivate them. Like some people want rewards, some people want social relationships, some people want autonomy, others want to master and learn and get all the knowledge, and then the other ones have deep objectives. Okay, now the other one that is more advanced, if you want, there is one of eight players. Okay. Then you have Amy Joachim. She goes back, instead of having 5 players, she goes back into 4. Okay, and then divided in explorers. It's basically the same. she classifies in creators, explorers, competitors, and collaborators, and he goes into details about that. Now, they expand this model into others. They have expanded it up to 12. What I recommend is that you take the base of 4, and then when you do a second iteration of your design, you start adding activities for other type of players. The other type of players are, for example, the networker. So apart from being a socializer, they want to create relations. So, but with a benefit. So it's not the typical person that socialize only for socializing, but it's more creating network and gain some benefit from it. So use people as assets. Sounds terrible, but it could be something positive. We all network, okay? Then you have the exploiters. I love the exploiters, okay? The exploiters are like the free spirits, but they like discovering mistakes in your program, okay? And I love these students because those are the students that make you improve your program. So whenever a student spot a mistake, and I do make mistakes on purpose, and obviously I made mistakes, I realize. Whenever a student points out, teacher, you're making this mistake. This is not wrong. If I do this, I get extra points and you don't realize, I have a badge or a bonus for that student. So people are actually motivated to see how they can hack my course, okay? And then they can even create, because I have seen that and I motivate my students. Jeff Kuhn, a friend of mine, told me about it. He saw, Jeff Kuhn is, he has a PhD in instructional design with gameful design, and he's from the University of Ohio. And we were talking, and he saw this activity of students creating a discussion forum, a Facebook group, where they actually told, they were former students of a course, and they told the current students of that course how to pass it, how to get an A, how to get an B. So it's like a walk. So what happened is that the professor discovered it, and instead of actually getting angry, he realized that it was a way to improve and help, and the students helped each other, and the professor actually improved. So those are activities that exploiters are going to be motivated by. And you are creating something that in video games is known as walkthrough. So the students know how this teacher, for this teacher is super important that you read the extra material. You can get extra points here. There is a bonus to unlock. So it's very important that you do that. Be careful with the exams because he's very strict in the exams. So those tips, it's actually, you cannot pass the course with those tips, but they help you to get a better grade. Some professors would consider that cheating, but it's actually not cheating because they're helping each other. And that is part of what you do in a game. So I'm actually not playing, so far, we haven't played anything of a game. We're taking things that you see normal in games and you include it in your program. And my recommendation is always to include those little things, little by little. You try it out, it works, and then you click another thing and another thing and another thing. Otherwise, it becomes overwhelming. So, and then the other one that you have the improver, the ones that discovers and wants to improve it, is always looking for that. And then they also mentioned the, I forgot that word in English. It's disruptive. Okay, so they always want to do, so to change things, to improve it, and they're looking at a way to tweak it and all that. So the best way of doing this for exploiters, the disruptors, all that, is to include in your course design mistakes, okay, on purpose. You're going to make mistakes that you don't realize, but include in your course design mistakes, not like grammar mistakes, but things that students will point out. And to give you an example, in a teacher training program, okay? Something that it's always true in gameful design is that from day one, they have to know what they're going to do, specifically how the points are designed, what the paths and the autonomy is, okay? And when I train teachers into that, I don't do it. So I on class 2 or class 3, I'm mentioning this, and I am expecting one of the teachers that I'm training to point out, but you didn't do that. We don't know how we're going to assess. We don't know what is coming on next. We don't know this. So I make that mistake on purpose. So they actually discover that. And they feel motivated because all the time, and then I mentioned, I made mistakes on purpose. You have to discover that, and you get a bonus for this, you get a bonus for that, and all that. And they start picking up. Every time I speak or say something, they are paying attention because they are going to say, okay, let's see the course. What is this guy doing? So that motivates them. Others are not that motivated by that, so that's why I include different kind of activities. But I'm going to show you. So we were talking about objectives. Then you have to set the players. Okay, so identify the players, and then here is where we start getting a little bit complicated. Where is this? You have to decide on an autonomy method. Okay, you have to decide on an autonomy method. Where is this? Where is this? Okay. Okay, which one was good? Okay, so when I talk about autonomy, and I'm going to give more examples in my other workshop, I mean that they have to select a path. If you can complicate your life as much as possible, but you can do simple things to include autonomy. Okay, so 3 examples of autonomy, or 3 types of autonomy are these. The first one is autonomy autonomy through submissions. That is the easy one. Okay, sometimes we tend to force students to present the final project or whatever they're doing on one way. Okay, so you can be creative, like let them research or some written paper. They can do a play, they can do a song, they can, I don't know, they can do it.
You're cutting out
so
just a
give them
little
options.
bit. Kristen, were you hearing that too? Yeah. It's showing that your internet is maxed out.
Probably my kids are watching Netflix and they are also in class. So what about now? Better?
Seems okay right now. It looks like you're at a yellow or red.
Okay.
Anyway,
Okay.
Kristen, yeah, I'll jump in and chat with you if it slows down a little bit. It sounds okay right now.
Okay. So nice. So what I was saying is that you give them options to present. It could be synchronous, asynchronous, in class, using Flipgrid. It could be a text. So don't only go in one direction. Obviously, when we are teaching English, we want different skills like writing, speaking, and things like that. You can make a balance, but always give them a choice. Okay, that is one way. That is the easy way. Okay, now we get into more difficult ways to promote autonomy is assignment selection. Okay, here is where teachers and professors start getting crazy and are you sure you want to do this? And then you say yes. So you can give them, for example, you can have quizzes, you can have exams, you can have papers, blog posts, individual projects, group projects, and everything, it has some points. And don't think about 2, 3, think about thousands of points. So they can create their own combination of so I complete 3 quizzes. I complete obviously something is required, like the midterm exam and the final, but I'm not going to go for the group project. I'm going to go for the individual project. Okay, so, and they add. In the end, they create their own path to get an A, to get a B, or whatever score you use, the scoring system you use. We're going to go into more detail, specific things about that when I talk about autonomy in my other workshop. I'm promoting my workshop already 3 times. Okay, and then the other one is autonomy. There's more, but the last one that I want to talk about is autonomy through collaboration. Okay, so how do you do that? You can have individual assignments and you can have group assignments. And what you do is like, if you want to do it individually, you have to do 5 of these, and they are 400 points each. Or you can do a group assignment that is 2,000 points. It's more difficult, but you can work in as a team. So they actually pick. I prefer to work alone. Boom, I work alone. I prefer to work in teams. But obviously, the design of the project has to be different. So the difficulty level matches that it's individual or it's in a group. But they pick. Now, you may be thinking that, okay, this means more work for me. Because I have to check individual, I have to check work. The good thing is that the way you design it is that you design it in a way that you have to analyze how difficult it is for students to complete it and how difficult it is for for teachers to grade it. Okay, I have two files that help that I use. I took it from Michigan University. They have this tool called Gradecraft, and they use a lot of on the steps. Some of the things that I'm saying is part of their course, and the others are part of my master's that I did in game that I'm doing right now in gamification. Okay, so that is, you just choose the path. You are not designing the assignments, you are not designing the tests or anything. Okay, now another way to do that, another thing that I should have mentioned before. Sorry, I forgot. But I'm going to show you how we promote collaboration, just as an example, just to relax a little bit. I'm going to show you something. So I'm going to go and show you this. How do you promote competition and collaboration at the same time? And that is talking about values. Okay, so let me see on Tumble Jam. I like this. Why I cannot open this? Ah, no. Oh, we are in Zoom. That's why I cannot open it. So let's do this. I'm going to go on teacher mode. So when I start a class, and to tell you how we promote different things with a real example. So when we have a class, this is the beginning of my class, okay? Oh, okay, so then we have a step 2. This is a step 2. And when I say step 2, we have cheating. The teachers are going, like, whenever I say this, teachers get. So the first 5 minutes of my class is cheating. I call it cheating, but it's actually time where we work in teams, 4 students in each team. So the first 5 minutes of my class, they can actually discuss about the pre-work. We don't talk about homework, but pre-work. It could be something they have to read, watch, or complete, or things like that. But they have to do something. So those 5 minutes prior to my lesson, then they discuss if they actually did it. They are independent. So some teams decide to, we have to read all of us, and then in the first 5 minutes we compare ideas. You can go up to 8 minutes or something like that. Or they decide, okay, this week is your turn. This week is Patrick's turn. Next week is Christian's turn. Next week is Jota's turn, and then you are going to teach us at the beginning. So they are independent. Now, if you check that, autonomy. If you check that, you are checking with socializing. If you check that, it's collaboration. So it becomes a game like that. Now, after that, after the cheating time, where is my, we go here and we have the super fine, the super cool quiz. Okay, this is a very simple quiz. Okay, this is a quiz that I normally use something that is going to help me correct easily for formative assessment. You can use Kahoot, you can use quizzes, Socrative, Mentimeter, anything, okay? My objective is not to fail or pass the students, is to prove how much they have learned from the pre-work, because that helps me actually move on with my class faster or slower, adapting the pace. Again, autonomy, respecting, things like that, and it's part of a game, okay? Now, this quiz is individual, but you have 2 grades. You have the individual grade, that is the score that Kahoot, quizzes, or whatever you're using gives you the points. And you have a group grade, that is the average of all the team members. Now, why this is a game changer? Because we actually have a ranking, okay? We have a leaderboard. But our leaderboard is not for individual students itself, it's for teams. So what happens? That team leaderboard is going to unlock bonuses or badges or prizes. The individual score is going to add to their grade, to their grade. So what happens? Why do we do this? What are we teaching with them? First of all, we are teaching collaboration, okay? Because we have this collaboration. What else are we teaching them? We are teaching them to arrive on time. Why? Because if they miss the first 5 minutes, they don't have this cheating time. Okay, so they are on time. And it becomes like, it's super funny, people trying to get their friends on time. Now, why did they want to be on time? Because if they arrive at minute 6, they have to take the quiz. And if they didn't have the cheating quiz, probably their score is going to be lower than their team members. And the team score, the average, is going to be affected. So everybody's worried about that. Probably they will be on time just because, not to be embarrassed by the other team members, but normally it's because they are pushing for this competition. Now, what happens if this quiz normally takes like 10 minutes? No, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, okay? So it's like that. It's super fast and all that. Maybe it takes 6 and all that. What happens if a student arrives super late, like 15 minutes late, okay? That student get a 0 in the quiz. So it's going to affect the team, unless there is a valid reason and he explained the teacher and all that, and we don't consider his grade or her grade for the group team score. Okay, and then it becomes a game. Honestly, this is a game, a little part of our Gamify. This is like the Gamify part of the class, not the entire course. And we have promoted collaboration. We have promoted arriving on time, which in our culture in Peru, unlikely is something like is a big problem. And we have promoting apart from that, we have motivated students to actually rework, and they don't see it as homework. So it's super fun. You can vary these, you can change some things, but it's a little thing that we do at the beginning of each class or most of the classes, and it has changed it, and they see it as a game. Okay, so collaboration, competition in a good way, and then punctuality. Okay, so we are teaching more. Now, going back to what I was saying, I'm going to show you something that is the most confusing part of this small workshop. Okay, so I'm going to show you this. Once you cover autonomy, you have to start thinking of unlock and badges, okay, and your assessment. Why do you want to think of unlock and badges? Okay, because if you give points for something, you don't want, some people can realize, okay, check, attendance is 100 points. So I don't need those 100 points. I can skip all the classes and I still can pass this course. Okay. So what you do is put a lock, and you say, to be able to get a C, minimum a C, or a 20 or whatever grade system you have, then you have to get at least 50 points in the attendance from attendance. If you want to get an A, you have to get at least 80 points from the attendance. So you put a lock to protect your course. Now, that is the part where students are going to find most of your mistakes, honestly. They are going to discover when you don't put a lock, they are going to find it, and they start going to exploit that mistake. And then you realize, okay, I have to put a lock here. You discover it, okay, you get the bonus, but now I put a lock here and there. So that is the fun part about gamification. It becomes a game. You have to test that out before you actually do something. But I'm going to show you an example from, this is an example that you can find in Gradecraft when they teach you about gameful design. But I'm going to just use it. It's not mine. I'm just not plagiarism. Okay, so this is an example of a syllabus from a university course, and it's video games and learning that is used with gameful design. More about the topic is basically how they do this. So this is the course objectives. So you have some objectives, typical thing, the overview, required text, nothing new here. So from the outside, a Gamify class can look like pretty much the same, but the inside dynamics and how the students are learning is a different thing. This is one of the big difference in the grading policy, okay? And this is a little bit confusing. Normally, I don't show this first. I will go for this, okay? So you see that is not, you have 1,250,000 points in total. So you could delete 4 zeros and you have 125 points and it would be the same, but it would feel very boring. It doesn't got that sense of I'm earning and I'm doing something and I'm adding points. The big difference that you can see, like it's fancy, they use different levels. You can put different levels here, change this, that the A plus is another thing and put like name if depending on what you are teaching or what the students like. Okay, so something like if they have superheroes, maybe you put Superman here or Batman and things like that, or do whatever you want. Okay, but they feel identified, and then you have the grade depending on the grading system. The important thing here is that it's basically you don't lose. What happens in traditional scoring or grading systems is that you get a score and you feel like you're losing because, okay, I lost 2 points or whatever, or I got a B here, and then, okay, so my maximum grade is going to be a B now, okay? In this case, when you give points like this, they always go up, and they actually can project and simulate if they are going in a nice path, and then they can actually simulate which way to go to get an A, to get a B, or if they are already, it's half of the semester and they are here, then okay, nice, I'm in a good path, but okay, I have to do this and that to get a B. If I want to get an A because I already lost some points, I have to unlock some bonuses, so they can actually do some extra thing, but it's always winning. Check this, this is a lock. You must earn at least 6,000 attendance points to earn a C minus, okay? So those are locks. So that is to protect yourself of somebody discovering things that allows them to pass without proving they know. Now, once you have these kind of things, I'm going to show you the autonomy. I like this example, but sometimes it's a little bit confusing. Okay, so well, they have funny names like grinding, learning, and playing a game, all of that. So class attendance is something that is ongoing, and you tell them it's 5,000 points per session. Okay, so that is what they get. If you, depending on how many sessions you have, you can do the numbers, how many points they can get. Quiz on grading system, then up to 5,000. So depending on readings, how many points. Now blog post, check this. This is teaching something apart from actually making them complete a blog post. 500 for a basic post, 11,000 for teaching us something, so it's something deeper, and 2,500 to be scholarly. So actually, you are motivating them to avoid plagiarism and to try to cite or read and get something something out of an author, investigate, and then put it on your own words, and obviously don't copy paste something. So without actually you are talking about plagiarism, you are motivating them to do that with a team. Learning game review, those are project team points. They use a very similar thing that we do in team points. And do you get a bonus if you're in first or second? Then if you think about this, these are just projects or works. And the things that it's super important is the unlock requirements. Okay. So for example, you cannot do poster 2 if you haven't completed poster 1, if you do the reflection paper if you haven't completed poster 1. It doesn't have to be one can unlock 2 or 3 alternatives. The same boss battles are basically your exams, your big assessment and all that, and you have different points. Okay, project 1, project 2, and game design project, the final thing that you will provide feedback all the time. Okay. Now, another thing that I want you to notice is this. You have, this is the maximum points, but you have another maximum point, which is basically, okay, I'm unstable again. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So basically, it means that if you complete certain tasks, you can have a rubric, depending on how you assess, you can get 160,000 points. But what happens if you have an extraordinary student that went beyond? Okay, so you are prepared to give that student something extra. Okay, so that is something that you can do in gamification. And then add. Now, the nice thing about doing it this way is that you are not penalizing the student that is struggling, and because they are not losing points, but you are actually giving points to the student that is doing something extra. So you are getting that extraordinary student the opportunity to demonstrate that he or she is extraordinary. So that is one thing. Now, autonomy. Uh, any questions? I know when I talk about this, everybody starts getting a little bit confused because too many numbers.
I wanted to ask Kristen something though, just because, Kristen, you've been designing programs for a while and you have a number of programs that you worked on. So Jota, if you don't mind taking, this is really awesome. And I think, I don't know, Kristen, have you ever seen the relationship between your own syllabus and kind of a game, and that you have to give points anyway, even before the pandemic? And I'm just wondering if how you're seeing this impact your own programming.
Yeah, so I actually attended TESOL International Convention. I want to say it was like back in 2017, 2016, somewhere along in there, and attended a workshop on gamification. But it was about language learning, and so I've incorporated that into our objectives, like learning about how to teach language in this sort of gamified way. But what was just an absolute light bulb for me last time was thinking about this in terms of teacher training, of like, don't just tell them to go do this with their students, do this with them, like have them level up their learning this way. And so I've been in the throes of gamified teacher training ever since. I've actually already got a proposal passed in the time since your last webinar, of just looking at how we can relationally put people who are on campus and online in teams together to create sort of a team-based approach to leveling up their learning by doing these. I hate the word extra, and I think we're going to subtract the word extra from everything we do, and instead of looking at sort of like this culture of doing the bare minimum and passing what the instructor says, we're in these teams that sort of use this positive peer pressure and the sense of unlocking to do a little bit more. So I'm just soaking everything in, ready to take what we've been talking about language learning and now apply that to teacher training.
Kristen,
okay, so I can go more onto well, what I have done, and the examples I think are a little bit broad. And this syllabus, for example, is not about language learning, so you could take ideas from here and there. But I can actually give more specific examples of the teacher training thing. But the concept is the same. Like, this is the important part of this, because this is the different part of a syllabus that you actually have to explain the people being trained, even if it's teachers or students, how the class is structured. And that is the part that normally they get confused because they have options. Okay, so they explain about the blog post and all that, and learning game review. I have another example that I think it says, I think it's this one. This is from astronomy. Okay, so there is one example that this I think that is actually better at that part. The principal leveling up, learning objectives. No, this one I cannot find it. Oh, but I was prepared. Don't worry. I'm prepared. Okay, so this thing, accumulated course points, so you can earn up. This is with lower points, so you can use something like that. But choosing your activities. So you are free to select the activities in which you would like to engage. Okay, so and you have different paths. So we're going to do something super nice, since I've been talking a lot, and you want to see something more on to that direction. That's why I like small groups. So let's do this. Ta-da-dum, 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 bum. Okay, so whenever you do a Gamify program, you already have your objectives of what you want your teachers to learn. If you're talking about professors, or even it doesn't matter actually if what they are teaching, the first thing that you have to know, and I'm doing that right now, is what they are teaching. Okay, so right now I'm training business administration professors to gamify their university courses. Okay, so basically this is what I have done with them. So step one was they have they have set their objectives. Okay, we talked about that already. So once they have objectives, I destroyed their objectives. Okay, so and then to make clear that they include the knowledge, the skills, and the values. Now, values are something that it's normally involves the university, because the university has a profile. And then skills, there are certain skills that the university is looking for their students, like the alumni, what they have to do. And so there was a lot of work there. Okay, now when we talk about gamifying something, they have to learn how to design these things. And when we talk about objectives, then you talk about a course, then I will change like the basics. Okay, so these are the basics. What is something that the students need to know? All of them, like all of them need to know. Okay, and then you can start creating paths. So a teacher needs to start creating path 1, for example, and path 2, and etc., etc., etc. Okay, so they need to start creating these paths. Now, these paths doesn't mean that they are going to study different content. As we mentioned, you create autonomy in different ways. So they learn in different ways, or they can do something else. So that is the thing that they have to do. Now, the other thing that comes around and they have to learn is assessment. Okay, assessment techniques. Now, the critical thing, is that we don't want to overload teachers. So they have to differentiate between formative assessment and summative assessment and pick the right tools. Gameful design or gamification works hand to hand with formative assessment. They have to have that measure all the time. So if you have a final project, your whole semester, you are working little by little and assessing and assessing and assessing and assessing and leveling the students up. So that is the idea. So you pass this, you're in next level, you're in the next level, and then you're ready to present and pass the term. So we teach them to prepare students to pass. Okay, it's not assessing them itself, but we are preparing them to pass with formative assessment. Obviously, even if you gamify everything and everything is super perfect and all that, you will have students that lose motivation, or for some reason they don't pass your course. But that is the objective when you use assessment. Okay. Christine, let's go for the specific questions that you have about gamifying this program that you're doing, so I can help share some of the stuff that I actually do.
Yeah, I was curious about the player types that you identified. If you have encountered like player type inventory questionnaires where students sort of identify what some of their bigger drivers are, or get some sort of profile of who they are as a player and what their drives are, so that as a teacher or a program designer, you're sort of aware of who's in the mix.
Yes, there are questionnaires and surveys to actually identify what kind of players there are. So that helps you prior to the class. I don't have the links right now because I was not ready for that, but I can actually share it through Patrick because if I start looking for right now, it's going to take a while. But yeah, there are some, based on the author that you choose, there are different surveys. So You have the model of 4, the model of 5, the model of 6, and the model of 10. So again, my recommendation is to go, probably if you want to be nice, the model of the EXA model, so 6, and then you can actually use the survey there. I will share the links with Patrick so he can share it with you later.
Yeah, you can send me something later. I'll look for something right now.
Okay, so that helps a lot. But now I have a research paper here. And I think, yeah, I have this research paper that they actually did the tendency of, that was here. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it?
While you're doing that, Jota, I'm just really intrigued by, so I like psychology tests, even though I don't believe in them. And then I also like learning styles, even though I think it's problematic. And I'm just kind of intrigued by this idea of like asking your students or teachers in training to determine what kind of player they are, because I feel like people are going to answer more honestly about that because they can think of themselves in a game situation and they're like, oh, I just want to win. I'll do anything to win. And other people are like, I really like to hack the game. And like, I think there's less like, I need to present that I'm this kind of person, and more like, this is how I like to play. And we might actually be able to get at people's learning styles or even their psychological profile to a degree, by distancing one thing removed and calling it play. So it's kind of interesting that thinking about that. Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah,
too?
actually, students react better.
Go ahead.
Like they're more honest like this. That when you talk about how do you learn, I'm like, no, I don't know. Okay, so what do you play games? What type of game would you like to play? All of that. So this is a research paper I can share. It has a lot of information. I don't like that much reading research paper, but I have to. Okay. Uh, so where is it? Where is it? Minimize this. So the result is the gamification user type X at scale. So they have 6. Okay, and they did a study that was pretty nice, and then they see results, all that, and the tendency and how many students they have or all that. And these are the things that you can actually check. So they feed on philanthropies, disruptor. I already mentioned what the disruptor is. Free spirit, achiever, player, and socializing. Okay, and they decide like relatedness, reward, mastery, autonomy. So that is what motivates them. Okay, a player wants rewards, an achiever, mastery, a free spirit, autonomy, disruptor, change, philanthropist, purpose, and socializer, relatedness. So that is what motivates them. So and what they discovered in this research is this. So at least here, and you can see that it's something logical that is going to happen because it's not that typical to have that many disruptors. So disruptors, if they were common, our world would be a different thing. So that's why that like that. And then you have players, and that's what's the surprising part for me because I thought they were more players, but it seems like 10% were players that actually play because they want to achieve things and all that. Socializers is a big thing, and philanthropists. Okay, so obviously it depends on the group that you have, but there is a tendency that these are the 4 dominants. Okay, socializer, free spirit, achiever, and philanthropist. It may be also because of the type of education that they have received. If for example, you talk about Peru, we have achievers because our education system promotes too much that get a grade, get a point, and all that, and they want to get that. So so it could be a balance between player and achiever. So this research paper is nice, a little bit dense, but it's nice, and they talk about more more things about psychology behind that, how the relationship and personality traits. So I'm going to share this too. It's a really nice read if you want, you have the time. Okay, so that is with players, and I was going to mention something about players and I just forgot. Okay, something that can help you and that helped me a lot more than video games if you want to actually create a program to train. And that's how I modify my teacher training program. And that's how I'm modifying my kids teaching, like English for Kids program, is analyze board games. More than video games, analyze board games. And you have mainly two schools of board games, okay? You have the Euro games, which I recommend that you analyze deeply, because Euro games are deeply into mechanics and dynamics. Okay, so they deal a lot with making it very practical, and randomness is out. They try to take randomness out. Why is that important to take randomness out when you are training or teaching and you're gamifying? Because it depends on the student's skills and abilities. When there is something like, it depends a lot on like in a game, throwing the dice, then it's not that much about your skill, but it's too dependent on randomness. So Euro games have that characteristic. They add randomness, which is something that games have all the time, to make them less monotonous. So that is something that you should include in your program too. It's not everything the same, but there is a random thing. Like, you can include randomness in education in different ways. How you set up the teams, how you actually pick a path, okay, how you activate things. So at the end, you have a bonus for something, and then there is a randomness on which one you don't select. It's randomly selected for you. So it's always good to include those kind of things whenever you design a program. Okay, that is one of the schools. The other ones are, and I don't want, this may sound offensive, but the name that they use for those games is Ameritrash. Okay, but but that is the name that they use, and there's an explanation. When they start designing this game in America, it was more than focused on the dynamics and mechanics. It was focused on the narrative. That is also important that you include in your program. And they were more visual. So you engage and super motivating, all of that. So people get engaged and they want to consume it more. So the reaction of the people, the designers of the Euro games, was to name it like that in terms of criticizing it. But in the end, in games, it's the way they have been called. But it's super nice. You can analyze. They are very simple card games that are very simple and that help all those kind of things. But they also have very simple dynamics. The bad thing is randomness. So you have to be very careful with that when you design a educational program that is gamified. Minimize that, but you have to include it. If there is no that lack or thing like factor, then it's not a game. There should be. Okay, what other question do you have?
Oh, yeah. So I appreciated how you kind of broke it down into, we have these objectives that are knowledge and skill and value. And in our program, we have what we call the cognitive domain, affective domain, and synectic domain. And we're looking at objectives for every course in those domains. I'm just curious how you've seen maybe research or experience in the affective domain and the relational components of gamification, because I think there's a concept that's just tied to the word gamification that says competition. And I think I probably don't have a lot of teachers that are driven by competition. They're probably more in that philanthropy component, as they're probably more social relational. That's why they went into TESOL in the first place. So I'm just curious what some of the research and experience has been in the affective domain and some of that more relational work.
Okay. I have some papers that are in Spanish, so I have to look for a little bit
Sorry,
more
my
of that.
second language is Japanese, but my mother's
Okay.
a Spanish professor, so it's our family joke that Spanish teacher's daughter learns Japanese and we can't communicate.
Okay, but going into that, I can show it like from experience, and I know that's why I don't like the term gamification, and that is one of the reactions, because whenever I say gamification, the teachers I'm training are like, I don't like video games. and then I don't want to give my students points and all of that. And then that's why I say gameful design. And they're like, what is that? Okay, so the first thing to mention when you start talking about gameful design is that it's not about points, it's not about competition, it's the opposite. Now you can put examples of people talk. You mentioned this, use this word at the beginning of being addictive. Okay, and it has been proven that uh, it's not about addiction, or it's not about the graphics, because people thought it was like the multimedia and graphics and all that. And then a very popular video game appeared, Minecraft. Okay, and Minecraft is basically pixels. Okay, and it's so popular. So they say, okay, it's not about multimedia, it's not about the graphics, it's about something else. And then one person that I can put you in touch with is my friend Jeff from Ohio University, and he has a lot of research on that. The thing is that they discovered that the learning process within a video game follows a lot of the theory behind learning. Okay, for example, making mistakes. Normally, we penalize a lot making mistakes, and that's why students get scared. When you are training somebody, they don't want to say something that is wrong, because we get this feeling of being embarrassed and all that. Okay, the ones that normally don't have are not scared of making mistakes are kids, and they just do it. Except now with online learning, because of parents being sitting next to them and correcting them all the time. But whatever. Okay.
That's true.
Okay, so that is something that is going to affect kids in the future. But anyway, I always just Mario. You die, it's not that you lost the game. You come back from a checkpoint and you continue and you have learned something. So that is something that you have to promote. That is one mechanic from video games. Then the other thing is, I already mentioned this. I'm tired of mentioning this. It's autonomy, because you actually pick your path. Okay, that's why they are more motivated too. Okay, so when there is autonomy, then you activate curiosity, because you can finish a game and then you say, okay, I did it this way. Can I do it in hard mode? Or should I go the other path? What happens if I take path B instead of path A? And then boom, you do it again. So that's why they spend hours and hours playing video games. Okay. Then the other thing that is super important, and I'm not talking about points. So far, I haven't talked about points. I'm not talking about leaderboards. I'm not talking about badges. The other thing that is super important for people that play video games, and they have said that, is that it's you learn from mistakes, you die, you don't die. I got blank. I got blank. Patrick.
While you're thinking about that, I just took this this quiz that I found, and so it's actually it was pretty cool. There were about maybe 30 questions on it. And I guess what, I'm 87% explorer, which totally matches how I feel about it, because I really like to look at every area of the game and see what all is there. And I also like seeing what the mechanics are and what they do in the game. That's partly because I'm a designer of learning programs myself, but I also really like collaborative things. And looks like here, I want to get the things done. And then I'm a little bit of a killer too, but just a little bit. These don't add up to 100%. So I think certain questions, basically they're like, if you answer all these at 100%. See, look, I'm doing it right now. I'm trying to guess how they designed their assessment tool. I should stop. So, but anyway.
That's why you kill my activity with the Quizlet.
I know, it's true. And I was like, oh my God, I wanted to figure out how we were supposed to play that game. Before I started just clicking buttons.
So that is something, for example, that differentiates about kids and adults. Kids just start clicking, and that's why they learn, and adults want to know what happens. Okay, but going back to games, another thing that is being found about video games, or in general games, is that you always know where you are at any point in time. So there is not this thing that you feel that you are actually doing something good, and then you take a test and then you fail, and it's like, what happened? Okay, I thought it was good. In a game, you always know where you are. If it is points, stars, or progress, you know your progress. So that gives you confidence.
Okay, that brings me to my next question, because as I've been trying to design and put together sort of this gameful design to our TESOL programs, one of the things that I'm coming up against over and over is that we use Canvas as our LMS, and as for Canvas, I know how to use it as a completion tool, right? I can show you when you finish a thing, but I can't give you a visual progress bar that a team can watch, right? What are the tools that do that?
Okay,
And
so there are
after
many
you
things.
answer, I also have
Okay,
something to contribute to that too. Please go ahead.
no, do it. You do it first, and then I will.
Yeah,
I'm going to show something.
just really quickly, Kristen, and I would love to collaborate with you afterwards. If you want to, we could do like a building session so I could share some of the stuff that I've done as well. And just maybe we can do some of this stuff together because we're here, both here in Portland. There are two things that I've been struggling with the completion or demonstrating progress as well. One, Google Classroom tells you what you've completed and you haven't completed as an LMS, but it's really clunky and bulky and like annoying to navigate. So it's a progress bar is what you want. You want a meter. In the last one that you were there, when Jota and I were showing our programs, I really like what Symbaloo offers because it has a game piece on there and you can see everyone. It has unlimited people can be playing your game at one time, and you can have the backdoor view, but the backdoor view doesn't show everyone where everyone is. For me, that's great because I have an asynchronous program and people can enter and exit at any time. So it doesn't really help the person who just came in the game to see that someone else is almost done. In your space, though, you've got people working their way towards completion and they're all going to complete at the same time. One of the things that I really enjoyed for building the interactive fiction piece was that inside of it, you can set variables, and as variables are set and you get closer to that, it creates a meter. Now that was really cool and fun to do. It's still also a one-person game. So my answer is, sorry, surprise, I haven't found a good answer to your question yet, but I'm looking, oh, you know what? Classcraft could do this too. Classcraft is something I just learned about. Jota knew about it, and it does create, it's very RPG-like. So it definitely, you make characters. And I think, Jota, they do have a group completion towards a quest model in there. So anyway,
Okay. So different things. Okay, let me share this. Okay, so this is Canvas. So if you do it the simple way, this is what I do, and this was gamified. Okay, so it's actually when you have all the points, and when you go into student mode, they can see a little bit better that. But everything is with lots of points, and they are as assignments. Okay, even the attendance, and they can actually see some progress in percentage. That is the basic thing you can do here. Okay, because they see how many points. The thing is that there is another file that I normally use if you want to complicate your life. That is an Excel file where they can simulate their future grades and they can put in their regular grades and they can see their path. But that is on the student's side and they have to do it on their own. The other thing that I do is I add, so they can actually see some progress. I use this.
and Badger is designed to integrate with Canvas pretty well, right? Do you use it, Kristen?
Yeah, so I've been playing around with it since my proposal of last week. So I am now an issuer in Badger. Yes.
Okay, there you go. So that is with everything, and then there is just found that you can add a geocurve. So it involves a little bit of coding, and you can add a progress bar to a page in Canvas. I haven't tested this solution because It's the first time I see this. So it's a progress bar in Canvas. But it seems like it's not that effective. So what I'm going to show you is, where is this?
While you're doing that, do you know about any dashboard makers? After you talk about Classcraft, maybe, do you know about any dashboard makers where you can aggregate data to put like a dashboard on a web page of any kind of variables that you want, so that people could go to a web page and it could just pull the
There is one, there are lots, like you can say that for progress bars, yes, they are like progressbar.com and things like that. Or leaderboards. So
Mhm.
you can actually have the leaderboards, but you have to input, or you or the student have to input the data.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Get the
so
students to do it.
yeah, so it's like that, and they input the data and they can see the leaderboard change. So yeah, and now, but before doing that, this is Classcraft. The disadvantage of Classcraft is that it's too dependent on technology. But if everybody has access to that, is nice, because it's actually a game. Like this is like mm, it become completely a game for whichever course you have, and they have done it in a nice way because they talk about health, they talk about experience, gold, and all that. So everything that you do is not necessarily points, but it goes with your experience, and you learn abilities, and the teacher can actually demo class. Okay, let's go for the demo class again. And then you have things like this: random picker, random events, and you have volume meter, and then you have boss battles, which are the exams or assessment. And then you have also the quests. Okay, so you have quests. Quests are basically you create a world, and then they see where they are going. So if they actually, this is your progress bar, but in a very fancy way. So if you want them to go through here, and they pick their paths, and they can see how good, how well they are doing, and you can create different worlds in terms of, okay, this is assessment, a gamify assessment, this is gamify classroom management, and all that, and they can learn the different paths, and they can see where they are. You can see where they are, what they have completed, if they have completed the quest, and you design the quests. So this is like the most complete thing about having a more than a progress bar, but you do need, uh, uh, it's very technology dependent. So but I love it. So when I have to use it, and I like, for example, this, they have powers. So and you can personalize the powers, which basically gives the students the ability to do something special. So for example, having the permission to present their assignments a day later, but they can activate it only once. But if they actually complete and they get more experience points by doing things and tasks and quests, then their healing power goes to level 2 or level 3, and then it's not only him, but also his team that has the ability. Okay, and if you see, one thing that they have done, and you do that in Gameful design, is that you have roles in a team. So you have the warrior, you have the wizard, or things like that, because you respect the type of players that they want to be. And every single power, all team members except mages gain all that. You can change this. Okay, so it's the nice thing about this is that they actually have followed all the principles and put it here. It's a little bit difficult to follow up at the beginning, but it has everything. It can be integrated with Canvas, I think. Yes, there is an integration, so it can be integrated. So basically, what you do is if the official tool for the university to display the grades with Canvas, you can pull out everything from there, and then the dynamics of your class are in the Classcraft. Classcraft can be used like asynchronous, but like a lot of the activities in there are for your in class. So you are there and you click and it's random. And then why is it in class? Because some of the powers are activated during the lesson. So even if it is an online or if it is in person. So for example, if you're in the class They have to have their smartphones or their tablets, and then, for example, you ask a question. You ask a question and to Patrick, and then Patrick doesn't know the answer. And if you don't know the answer, you don't lose points, but you lose health. Okay, so that's the nice thing. They have different uh, type of points. Okay, that is the advanced level of gameful design. But I am part of his team, and one of my abilities is protection. So I say, okay, no, I launch my protection so the teacher cannot. So Patrick didn't answer, but he's not going to lose health points. Okay, or maybe I use another power that he's not going to answer. I am going to answer because I know the correct answer. So that's why there are lots of things in Classcraft that are for the lesson itself, and then the progress bar to be out of the lesson. So you have to learn to play the game. If you don't want to use Classcraft, for example, you can do the same thing with cards. So so you just give the students different type of cards, and if they want to use a superpower or whatever, they use it and they have to give it to you, and and then after 2 days they can get it back because it's again activated. So more than the digital tool itself is the concept of how to use it, and then you decide how techy you want to go. But yeah, that is like the top thing uh, in terms of visually gameful design.
And we are after 10:30 right now. So I think it's good to note that since an hour and a half space. Do we want to do any quick follow-up, or can I bring us to a close?
Yeah, thank you so much. I am going to have to run to my next thing, but I really appreciate this. This was really helpful as I'm thinking through gameful design, not gamification, but gameful design in our TESOL programs here. So thank you very much. This is very, very helpful.
Thank you. And I owe you some links on research papers.
Yes, I will look forward to that. Thank you so much.
No
Bye.
problem.
Thanks, Jota.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I can breathe now. I was really nervous.
I'll follow up with you soon. Bye.
Bye.